How's it going, everyone? I was on Twitter today and I saw something that made me just want to sit down and have a little yap session for you. So in this video, I'm going to talk about, is Pokemon Pocket more luck-based or is it more skill-based? I'm going to talk about why you may not be able to reach Master Ball tier, what is holding you back, the most common mistakes I see, and a whole bunch of other stuff to hopefully help you get to Master Ball rank every single season without an issue. So the first thing I want to discuss is something to hopefully give you a little bit of motivation. All right, let you know that this is possible. Now, what I saw on Twitter today that was so interesting to me was the #1 ranked player posted their, flexing, showing, hey, I am #1 ranked in the world, but they also showcased their win percentage. Take a look at this. 54.6 win percentage. And this is not dogging on anyone, how you choose to use your free time. That, it's totally up to you. If you like to grind this game as much as these top players do, then I have no issue with that. But look at this. 54.6% win percentage. That is not something that is unattainable. That is a very good win percentage for the amount of games they have played. I would wager that any of these people up here, probably within the top 1,000, are sitting somewhere between a 51% win percentage and maybe at the very, very high end, a 56% win percentage. I don't think there's many players that much better than that, and these win percentages are great over that long period of time. With how many things play a factor in whether or not you can even win a game as soon as you queue into it, it is a good win percentage. But here, let's take a look. So what is the biggest thing holding you back from potentially being top 1,000? It's going to be time, okay? They have 734 wins, 603 losses. For simple math's sake, we'll just call it 1,300 games. We'll do 1,300 games. We will say that very, very conservatively, a game takes 5 minutes to complete. We're left with 6,500 minutes. Divide that by 60. And we get 108 hours. The season's been out for what, 2 weeks? Divide that by 14. You're getting just about 8 hours played every single day. That is not something that's going to be attainable for you. But just getting into Master Ball regularly, that will be attainable. So what I'm trying to show you is that the top players, these people here at these very top ranks are not here because they are better than you, because they're more skilled. They are playing at a win rate that is very, very achievable. They're just playing a lot more than you are. And another point quickly before we dive into the rest of the video I want to make, it also screams to me that when these top players post deck lists, yes, they are a very good tool for you to look at and for you to learn from, but you can't look at the deck list and think, oh man, I mean, they're #1 ranked, they must be crushing with this deck, right? Like, that's why they're #1 ranked, because they're winning so much. No, they're that ranked because they are playing so much. The deck lists they use are usually good, but they are not the end-all be-all. They are not the only version you have to use. If you try their version and you don't like it, it doesn't suit your playstyle, don't play it. It doesn't mean that you cannot win games unless you're using one of the top-ranked decks. Now, what I'm going to show you next is probably the most important thing in this game. You could be the best player in the world, and if you do not have this figured out, your win percentage is going to be terrible. So what I'm on right now is play.limitlesstcg.com. I will put the website in the description. If you do not know about this website, you should know about this website. This is the ultimate tool for finding what decks are working, what does the meta look like, and how are people building these decks. So we're on play.limitlesstcg.com, and we're going to go up here to the decks tab. You can then filter by game, Pokemon TCG Pocket, and now we have all of the meta right here. You can click on Sylveon EX Greninja, and it will rank them by how well they did. The best performing deck lists are going to be right here at the top. So, what is most important here is if your deck list does not look similar to these top performing decks, you are dead in the water. Now, does that mean your deck has to be identical to this? That you just have to copy and paste this deck into your Pokemon Pocket application, and that's the end-all be-all? No. These are the starting points. If you say to yourself, I want to build Sylveon Greninja, do not build Sylveon Greninja yourself. There is no shame in going to this website, looking at the deck list, and starting with this as your first draft. It is what most top players will do. This is just the way it is done. These people have put in the work for you. They have played in tournaments. They've gone through the gauntlet. They've played against every meta deck, gone against increasingly more difficult opponents as the tournament has progressed. They have tested this. This is a tested, proven deck. This is where you want to start. Now, there is no problem with changing cards from these decks. Every deck in Pokemon Pocket has a couple of flex cards that are very rarely decks that are set in stone. This is how it should be played 100%. Now, when you do make these changes, they have to be for a really, really good reason. What I don't want you guys to do is to take one of these deck lists, lose one game, and go, man, if I just had this card in my deck, I would have won. So I didn't use this card, so let's take that out and let's put this in instead. No, you are... if you do that consistently, it's not going to take very many games before you have an unrecognizable mess, and you might be cutting consistency cards. You might be cutting cards that are used every single game, and it's just not going to be good for you. There has to be a really, really good reason for it. Like, let's say I wanted to put Irida in this deck. What I would first do is think to myself, okay, what is Irida? What is that 40 damage heal going to help me with? What damage numbers am I trying to swing back in my favor? Like, is there a card that's going to be two-shotting my Giratina, but if I put the Irida in it, that two-shot will now become a three-shot, and I will have a much better time in that matchup. How likely am I to hit that matchup? How many people are playing it? There's a lot that goes into changing cards and decks outside of just, I lost one game because I didn't have this card, so I should change it. You know, you got to think on the meta as a whole, what is going to help you, what is not. There are also some times where some matchups are just, you're just going to lose to them. You are just going to lose to them, and there's no point in trying to tech for them. Sylveon Greninja, I don't think really has any, too terrible matchups, but think like Solgaleo. Solgaleo just accepts that it's going to lose to Oricorio. Putting a card into that deck that would help its Oricorio matchup that is so bad would just be detrimental to all of its other matchups. It's a lot easier for Solgaleo just to say, I lose to Oricorio. It's the risk I'm taking with this deck. Let's move on. If I see it and they get to Oricorio, I'm just going to leave the game because there's no point in playing this. You cannot tech for unwinnable matchups. You just got to leave them. Basically, every deck that isn't, a rare case like Sylveon Greninja, I just can't think of it off the top of my head. It definitely has some really poor matchups. But every deck has something you're going to lose to. It's another thing you need to factor in when you are picking a deck is what are my unwinnable matchups or close to unwinnable matchups? How many people are playing it? Should I even play this deck? We'll get into more of that later. But what I really want to hammer in is your deck list needs to be good. It is like the most important thing in this game is that you have a well-refined deck list with cards for, the most common scenarios and help you win in those common scenarios. I don't want to see any of you guys running Sylveon Greninja without Double Cyrus. All right, it is the biggest throw in the world. Don't do it. I see it too often. I don't know why you would. It's just consistent. It's good. And when you're building a deck, always remember, in Pokemon Pocket, consistency is key. There are very few decks that allow you to play all of your tech cards. Really, the only deck that can do that is Darkrai Giratina. They can get away with it. Most other decks, they just want to stick to my Pokemon are powerful enough, and I need these supporter cards, these item cards consistently in a game that will let me win, alongside my play. Popping in here in the middle of the video to remind you to subscribe to the channel, like the video. One day, there's going to be a plaque up here. It's going to say Tilly TCG 100,000 subscribers. I don't want to have to bot for it. Please, let me get it legitimately. Do me a favor, subscribe to the channel. All right, let's keep going. So now I want to talk about a few different things in this one. And the main topic here is going to be your play. Now that we have the deck list figured out, we have to address the elephant in the room. If you are not playing correctly, your win percentage is never going to be good. So I'm going to give you some tips on how to improve your play here. Now, I will address now, is Pokemon Pocket luck or skill? I say this as someone who has entered large tournaments before and played in them very, very well. Or sorry, placed in them very, very highly. Most of my wins during those tournaments came from me outplaying my opponent. Straight up. My opponent would make a misplay. I would put together some line of play that either they weren't considering or just didn't see at all until it was too late, and that allowed me to get the win. Very few of my wins during those tournaments where it's best 2 out of 3 ended up being luck based. Now on ranked, there is luck that's going to play a factor. I am someone who has been top 1,000 twice, and I, even as good of a player as I consider myself a pretty decent player. I've gone on, I think my worst loss streak in ranked Master Ball was 13 losses in a row. And during that, I kept a mental note. 2 of them were from tilt, being on tilt, not playing optimally. The rest were legitimately straight up queuing into bad matchups and just also getting completely unwinnable hands, or some insane bad luck thing happening to me, like a Team Rocket grunt going nuclear on my Pokemon, and that cost me the game. So there is a good amount of skill, and skill is going to push you ahead of the luck. It's all about minimizing how much luck actually happens in this game, and the best way to do that is by having a good deck list and by playing optimally. While you're playing, you have to realize something, that you're going to lose games by bad matchups. You're going to lose games by bad luck. And it's the games where you get to play that really matter. You're going to have more games that you can play over all of this bad luck that happens to you. But if you're not capitalizing on those games where you actually get to play by making the right plays and playing correctly, it doesn't matter. You're going to end up having a really bad win percentage, and things aren't going to go well for you. So talking about play in general here, this is something I want to talk about. Something that's really going to improve your play is knowing how our deck's built. It's not enough to know your own deck list, which obviously you should do. You should know all 20 cards in your deck, know what options are available to you, but you also need to know what are the most common ways these other decks are built, and what are the tech cards for them. So what I'm playing right now is a matchup of me playing Oricorio Silvally against Leafeon, Flareon. Look at this board state. If this is a standard list that just plays the one of Leafeon, I have won this game. I win this game. But I'm not just considering. So this game right here on paper is won. If they're playing a completely standard list, I have won this game. But I know that these decks sometimes, not all the times, play the Flareon from Genetic Apex. I'm looking at an EV back here with 2 fire energy on it. I have two decisions here. I can either retreat into Oricorio, or retreat Oricorio into Silvally, pop the Giovanni, knock out this Leafeon. All I have to do after that is knock out, something with these Oricorios, and I've won the game. Cool, that could really push my advantage. If my opponent is playing Flareon from Genetic Apex, which deals 110 damage, I will put Silvally up. Silvally will get knocked out by Flareon. 2 Oricorios cannot knock out one of those Flareons. I lose the game. So I am sitting here in a 100, more often than not, probably 99% of the time, a completely winnable position. All I have to do is not throw, and I can do that by knowing what my opponent might be playing. If a Flareon comes up, okay, I can deal with the Flareon with the Silvally plus this other Oricorio, and things will work out for me. But if they aren't playing the Flareon, I've already won the game. There's no reason to go crazy. So when you're playing your games, when you're ahead, you need to think of all the ways, how do I lose this? You need to be cautious, because you will get surprised by people playing, unoptimal deck list. A lot of people do what I talked about in the first section of this video, and they will just start throwing in cards because they lost a game, but if they had this card, they would have won. Their deck lists are going to be unoptimized. They're going to have worse win percentages, and there are going to be times where it ends up working against you. You're going to get hit by something you weren't expecting, isn't normally in the list, isn't necessarily even a good card in the list, just so happened to come up at that exact moment in time against you. So you really just need to be cautious. You need to be looking for these ways that you could lose, these weird ways, because not everybody is playing the standard 20 list. People are making changes all the time. They're throwing in weird cards that aren't necessarily better, but are better against you in that moment. It happens a lot. It will happen to you a lot. You will get shocked by cards that don't really make sense. What I've been seeing is a potion in Charizard EX. What are you guys doing? There are so many better cards than potion. Do not put a potion in your Charizard EX list, okay? The Lily is enough healing. That's all you need. The Lily and the Giant Cape, you're good. Don't throw a potion in that deck list. So now I want to talk about your turn 1, because you are going to lose a lot of games this way if you aren't doing this correctly. On your turn 1, you need to understand that you need to assume that there is a Mars or a red card in that hand. Take a look at this. I'm playing a stage. This is especially important for stage 2 decks. I am playing a stage 2 decks. I'm using my Pokeball. Okay, I found my evolution, my basic evolution for my stage 2. I have a rare candy in hand. I have double research. If you do not have a playable hand, and you don't really need much more other than what you have on your board on your first turn, you do not play that research. You do not play that research. Your hand is going to get even more appetizing for a red or a Mars, and you are going to have literally, it's going to be twice as difficult for you to draw out of that as opposed to you just holding the research. You need to pretend that a Mars or a red card is in that hand every single time, because if you use that research and they use a turn 1 red card, you are now so far behind. You have such a worse card advantage over your opponent. It is just not looking good for you. Look at this, dude. Research into the Luxray and the ooh, and I got the research for the next turn too. Okay, this is what you need to be doing. I think a lot of players have figured this out by now, that if you're playing a stage 2 especially, you need to be just holding the research turn 1, because it's just all too common that you are going to get hit with a red card or a Mars, but that is something you really need to be doing. There's also there's an interaction that comes up quite a bit, which is, okay, I have a basic Pokemon in my hand. I can get disrupted on my opponent's first turn by them either going for Mars or Sabrina and putting me back. That is sort of something you need to play on a case-by-case basis. I usually prefer to just slam my basics down so that, you know, if they use Sabrina, it's whatever, but getting put into a dead hand is really hard to recover from sometimes, especially depending on how aggro my opponent's deck is. So I usually like to put those basics down, and again, it depends on the list. It depends on what you're playing. If you are playing something that really wants to get up and going quick, and a Sabrina will play a big problem for you, other than just if the detriment of your opponent playing Sabrina is greater than the detriment of your opponent playing Mars, then that's what you go for. But it's something you also need to be considering. You need to be considering that there are 2 ways for your opponent to disrupt you on turn 1 primarily, and that's red card, Mars, or Sabrina, and you need to think about both of them equally. This next one, I am talking to myself a lot, and I'm sure a lot of you guys do this as well. There are going to be games where you end up very, very far behind very quickly. I am playing one right here. You see, I go research because I need something on this first turn, and then I get hit with a Mars after finding nothing. I am just getting put in a blender right now. I end up getting a pretty good hand out of the Mars, but next turn, my opponent, after me putting forward this Nihilego, attacking this Oricorio, hits me with a Team Rocket Grunt and hits me for 2 heads. Takes away all of my energy on field. I am not in a good spot in this game. I'm not in a good spot at all. Things are looking very, very bad for me. There is a very weird line I can take if I just keep playing this out. They also hit me with a Repel as well, just to make things worse. Just to make things worse so they don't hit into my Poison Barb. It was a very, very bad start to this game. Now, as I kept playing, I realized, okay, wait. There is a line here. There is something I can do, and I start playing to that line. And then I end up putting myself in a really, really bad situation. In a turn here, where I'm looking for a Lusamine here. If this Guzzlord gets attacked one more time, my opponent takes the last point that they need to win, I lose. I'm looking for the Lusamine. I get the Lusamine. I Lusamine to Guzzlord. I'm a little bit on tilt right now. It is so important to not be on tilt, because right now I am on tilt. This game has not gone my way. I do not like Guzzlord. I'm not feeling it. I'm not having a good time. And I take this energy and I attach it to my Guzzlord. This, by all means, right now, is a super winnable game. Let me bring this down just a little bit so you can see where my opponent's health stats are at. He has a Tapu Koko with 130 HP. He's got an Oricorio and he's got a Pikachu. I know that this Guzzlord has 3 energy on it. The only thing that I really lose to here is a Sabrina or a Cyrus. I go ahead and I attach this energy to the Guzzlord. I now have no way to attack with my Nihilego if this Oricorio gets pushed. This Pikachu has 2 energy. He can't come up and attack with this Pikachu. He also doesn't want to attack with this Tapu Koko because it's only going to do 30 damage, which is something I can very easily heal off of my Guzzlord, assuming that I am playing a normal list with heals in it, which will not allow the Pikachu to come up for a follow-up attack. So what he's going to do with this board state, seeing I have no energy on my Nihilego, is push forward this Oricorio. Because I, in a fit of tilt, put a 3rd energy onto this Guzzlord for no reason. I have this Guzzlord that can attack for 120 right here. There's no need to do that. I now don't have any energy on my Nihilego. He has a completely free promotion of this Oricorio. Do 50 damage. He knows that Pikachu EX will probably just come up and finish me off. By all means, this should have been a lost game because of my own play. I brought this game back from a terrible start. He was up 2 points to my 0. I didn't really have a whole lot going on. I top decked the Lusamine when I needed to. And I want to show you something. Something pretty swag. He attacks. I get bailed out with the second Lusamine top deck. We attach the Guzzlord. We retreat into Nihilego. Lusamine and take that one. Should not have won that game. Should not have won that game. It is very, very important. When you are on the back foot to not tilt, you need to take a second. You need to realize that almost every game of Pokemon Pocket is still winnable. There will be times where you look at the board state and you go, all right, yeah, I can't do anything. My opponent is way too far ahead. But it's not always the case. You got to stick it out. You got to stick it out. You have to play to your outs. It is very, very important. Again, this is all about putting aside those bad luck games and just doing the best you can in the games that you can control the outcome of. If you start going on tilt and creating your own bad luck, win percentage tanked. The last general tip I want to give on play, because there are a lot of very broad tips you could sort of give. I think the best one to say is there are a lot of really good Pokemon Pocket players, a lot of good Pokemon Pocket streamers who are entertaining and play all sorts of different kinds of these top decks. If you have a deck that you're interested in and you want to learn more about how they play, how to play them, watch some content on it. You're not going to figure everything out on your own. The best players in every single TCG have a testing group that they work with. I doubt anyone really has a testing group for Pokemon Pocket. Maybe outside of the Frog EX guys who always do well at tournaments. Maybe they work on stuff together. But a lot of people, we're just kind of here, playing it solo, doing our own thing, maybe bouncing ideas off of people in Discord. Not a lot of big testing groups in Pokemon TCG Pocket. Watch these people play these decks that are better players than you or I. You need to understand how the deck fundamentally works. You need to understand what are the lines in specific matchups, what will give you the wins against those decks. You need to be doing these things. Now what I want to talk about is picking your deck. How do you decide what deck are you going to play? This is extremely important for ranked. I have some people who swear by Guzzlord EX Nihilego, and I have never understood it, and I'll show you why. So we're back on play.limitlesstcg.com, and we're still in the deck section, and I want to show you something. So you can look over here. You can see what is the total win percentage. This stat matters, but it also doesn't really matter all that much. You got to think of a top deck like this, like Sylveon EX Greninja, most played deck. This win percentage here, not only does it count very good players playing Sylveon EX Greninja, it also counts really bad players playing Sylveon EX Greninja. This is a little bit stat padded. This I rely on a little bit less than what I'm about to show you. So let's click on Sylveon EX Greninja and just give it a click. You have the best finishes. You go to the matchups. Now, what the matchups is going to show you is, across all things, what are the win percentages against the top decks? And these are all ordered by, essentially popularity. of, you know, how common are these decks. You look at Giratina EX Darkrai, 43.5%, Solgaleo Shiinotic 41, Charizard Sylveon 44, Flareon 44. You can get a sense of what the matchup data looks like for these decks. This is something that's very important to do with anything you are considering playing. What I want you to do is to have a 3-deck toolkit. Because like I said earlier, a lot of these decks just have decks that they do not want to see at all, and if they see them, are going to take a really hard loss to it. It's important that you have sort of a 3-deck lineup, because it really does happen this way. There will be times, at least in my experience, where you will go on ranked, and there are a ton of Charizards for the day. There are a ton of Sylveon EX Greninjas. It really depends on the time of day, the hour, what type of players are on, but there will be times where you will start to see one archetype or similar archetypes of deck pop up more often than not. When that's happening, don't just try to brute force your way through it. Pick a deck that, you know, makes sense for what's going on the ranked ladder at that time. The ranked ladder can be very easily manipulated. A popular YouTuber can upload a video that says, dude, this is the best deck right now. This is the play. The #1 player in the world could tweet out that they are playing Charizard EX, and now all of a sudden, all you see on ranked is Charizard EX. Things like that will happen. You know, everyone's out here. They all want to play whatever they think the best deck is. And so the ranked ladder is going to look very different at different times of the day, different days of the week, whatever. You want to have the toolkit available to you to be able to counter whatever is going on the ranked ladder at that time. Now, another thing I don't want you to do is while you have this nice little toolkit, you need to be careful on how much you're deck swapping. If you queue up and first game of the day, you hit a Charizard and you were playing, let's say Solgaleo, and the Charizard blows you out of the water, and you go, all right, well, you know, not the time of day for, did I say, let's say you're playing Solgaleo, you run into a Charizard, it kills you. Not the time of day for Solgaleo. Let's switch. All right, let's play Oricorio, because Oricorio is going to deal with the Charizards. Boom, free wins. Then you queue, and you hit Sylveon EX Greninja. And Sylveon EX Greninja is going to wipe you if you're playing Oricorio. And you go, well, I mean, Sylveon EX Greninja just beat me, so let's go to Charizard. All right, and then you queue up and you play Charizard, and then you hit the Oricorio that you were just playing, trying to counter the Charizards. These type of things are going to happen. You need to be very careful about deck swapping too often, because you're now taking the one thing you can control out of the equation, which is what deck am I going to play myself. You can't control what deck you're going to run into. You can make educated guesses on what am I going to run into more often than not, which will obviously impact what deck you choose to play. But if you keep deck swapping over and over and over, you're basically just running the same gambit every single time. And instead of taking those matchups that would have been good had you just stayed with your original deck, you are now putting yourself in just a losing cycle. It happens to me all the time. I would do it all the time. My best gains in ranked have been from me just locking in with a deck, saying, this is what I'm going to play, and just pushing through. If I hit a bad matchup, whatever, queue up, go next. I won't hit it again, most likely. You don't want to be deck swapping all the time. Like the most ranked points I ever gained at once was playing Greninja Oricorio. And over the course of like 2.5 hours before win streak bonuses, I think I gained 200 points in Master Ball ranked, which was, that's crazy to do in 2.5 hours. I mean, I went on an insane win streak, but the ladder was just going my way. I was hitting the right matchups. I wasn't switching decks, putting myself in that weird position of just trying to guess what I was going to queue into next. I just said, I'm playing Greninja Oricorio. And yeah, I hit decks that outright beat Greninja Oricorio during that run. And you know what I did? I kept playing Greninja Oricorio. I just kept playing the deck. So it's good to have that little toolkit, but don't keep swapping over and over and over. If you get a few losses in a row because the matchups aren't going your way, all right, then it's probably time to consider, maybe this isn't the right deck for right now. Let's try something else. And you want to just get that, get that win streak going with a deck and just stay the course. Keep going with it. Don't constantly deck swap. You're going to put yourself in a much, much worse position than if you had just stuck with the original deck. So this is very, very important. Make an educated decision when you choose these decks. Like Guzzlord EX, Nihilego, man, you're going to look at these matchup datas. Ooh, why am I doing this, dude? The only thing I'm taking a good matchup to is like Charizard and some Oricorio stuff, but Sylveon's going to boom me. Giratina Darkrai's gonna boom me, Buzzwole's gonna boom me, Solgaleo's gonna boom me. You know, it doesn't make sense. So before you pick your deck, make sure you look at these matchup charts and compare them with other decks. So you're not playing something that just already is at a disadvantage in the meta. Last thing I want to talk about is not every deck is going to work for you. It's that simple. There are some decks in this game that are simply harder to play than other decks. Sylveon Greninja is one I would say is probably a little bit more difficult. The wins aren't sort of given to you like Charizard EX is. Charizard EX is a little bit more simple to play than something like Sylveon Greninja. Sylveon Greninja, you really got to work for those wins in some cases. You know, it's got a very strong setup potential, but what you do with that setup can be a little bit tricky. It's not something that's outlined to you every single game. And that's fine. That is fine. I usually, myself personally, I stay away from whatever the top deck is because I just don't want to play a lot of mirror matches. I don't play a lot of Sylveon EX Greninja. I do not like to run into mirror matches all that often, so I personally stay away from it. Could I do better if I really locked in, learned how to play Sylveon EX Greninja to the best of its ability? Probably. Yeah. It is just essentially the best deck in the game right now, but me personally, I stay away from it. And that's fine. That is fine. Not every single deck is going to work for you, whether it doesn't suit your playstyle, whether you don't like mirror matches, whether it's just not something that you really totally understand how to pilot. It's fine. Pick a deck that does work for you. You're ultimately probably going to do the best with the deck that is most suited to either your skill level or your play style. I usually avoid the top deck, like I said, and I usually like to pick something that has some sort of energy acceleration built in or something that does bench sniping. Like I used to love my Hitmonlee. I miss Hitmonlee when he was in the format. Those were my decks, was setting up damage on the bench, using Cyruses to pick what I was going to attack with, 1-point decks that really allowed me to take control of the pace of the game by never giving up 2 points to my opponent. Those are the decks I like to play. Those are the decks I gravitated to. Those were the decks I played with the best. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the Yap session. If you made it this far, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'm getting a haircut tomorrow. Let me know if I should get it faded. Should I get a fade? Y'all rocking with Tilly with a fade? I don't know. I never get fades. I'm not gonna go like. I'm just saying, should I get it faded on the sides? I don't know. Anyways, all right. See you guys tomorrow.